Well, hello everybody. We are at the end of day 3 of NAAEE's conference, and we are continuing these incredible conversations through the NAAEE 2025 podcast stage. So part of what we've been trying to do is make sure that we are giving space to all these incredible voices who are sharing their insights, their experiences, whatever stories they have, and be able to talk to them for a little bit more. So I have somebody I'm really excited about here today to talk to us about the work that she's been doing. But Arushi Surve is somebody who was one of those teenagers who, I think we all know someone like that, or maybe we are those folks who are just really inspired to make a difference. They are inspired to figure out a way to get involved, find out how they can use their energy, their time, and their interest, even at a really young age, to make a change in the world. So, Arushi, I know that one of the things that is, I think, probably most impressive is that you founded Mission Green Global when you were, what, 15? Something like
Dean.
that?
Yeah.
Absolutely amazing, which is your nonprofit youth-led organization that's basically intended to empower young people to sort of drive that grassroots climate action, which I think has a really big impact on communities, on global communities and networks that can be built. And I know that what your organization has been able to do does span countries and continents. So yeah, I'm really excited to talk to you some more, but let me turn it over to you really quickly and just say hello and let you share kind of what is most, I don't know, what you're most passionate about right now as far as the work that you're doing.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks so much for having me, Carrie, and thank you so much to NAAE for having me here. It's amazing to kind of get to learn about more people who are in this kind of atmosphere and get to share about the work that I'm doing. Right now, I'm very passionate about kind of connecting different ideas in the environment and climate spectrum. I know that where we're kind of going, sometimes people are confused about how they can get involved in climate action and how climate action involves them. So I love kind of finding that interconnectedness. And right now, I'm actually on the council for the UN Ocean Decades Youth Council, and then also World Oceans Day Youth Council. And I love kind of working in this because I've never really worked on the ocean. It's given me a whole new perspective on how climate really works because it's all about that connection between land, people, and just different things that you never know because at the end of the day, like nature is all connected and nature is within us. So yeah,
Yeah.
that's something that I've been working on and really grateful for.
Oh, I love it. And I love that you're like, I haven't done a ton with the ocean, but the ocean could really use some love. So let's do it. And I know that something that you've expressed is making sure that climate action isn't just for folks who are in either privileged communities, privileged situations, or have access to all the same tools or networks. Talk to me a little bit more about that and kind of where that comes from and how you feel like some of the stuff that you're doing is helping address that or include that.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the main kind of where I got that idea from or where I started pushing for that was when I realized that as a youth, I also didn't have to wait for climate action. Usually, climate action was reserved or like, something that people had to wait for to get involved with because there's not a lot of education that spreads around in schools or where we start from a young age. So, kind of going into that spectrum and being like, here's a group that isn't really involved in climate action, but here's a group that can get involved in climate action was something that struck me as very important. As I started working more in the field, I realized that there were a lot of voices that weren't included, but should be included because I think, we share this one planet, and so we really need all the voices that we can get, and we can't really be picky, right? But because we need the most help that we can get in helping address this issue that's faced by and has multifaceted aspects to it because it affects everyone differently, whether that's low income communities or even more well-to-do families. Everyone is affected. It's just in different ways. So that's where I started working more in getting this idea of inclusive climate action. And that's something that I learned through Mission Green Global too, because we started branching out after I started the nonprofit into different chapters across the world. And there were some chapters that came to me and they were like, hey, I'm so sorry, I can't join our global meeting because we have low internet bandwidth. And that was when I first realized that I was dealing with real people who felt these real issues in their community because they didn't have access to sustainable grids or reliable electricity. And that's where this sort of came in, where I already had this knowledge that there are people in this world. But when you interact with people like this, when you actually work with them, it creates a whole new realistic issue that you feel like you're actively fighting towards because you're like, hey, like I know someone like this that could really use this sustainable energy. And that's where I got the idea from.
Oh, I think that that speaks to so many of the young leaders and communities that are really excited to be part of a climate movement and the ways that they can get involved. And they may, yeah, like you said, they may not have the same level of access to the internet or just general community organizing and things like that. So helping bridge that can be really powerful. So, what can you tell me of like an example of something that Mission Green Global has done, or something that you participated in that kind of demonstrates where that connection and that focus on empowerment really comes true?
Yeah, of course. So, like I said, we have these amazing chapters that, we began to expand um, about last year. I think it's been a year since we've opened up this chapter program where um, youth can organize their own team and kind of have their own Mission Green Global part of their community. And what we do at this chapter level is we focus on real world issues and we form themes about real world issues. So whether that's water, forests, and we bring it down to a community grassroots level so that these people get interested in solving these issues that they can see happening in their community. So, for example, one of the very first events that one of our chapters did for Mission Green Global was a lake cleanup in Siberia. And I thought that was very powerful because it's the first time that we were talking to these international students, that we were talking to these people from way over there that we've never really experienced or talked to in our life. And they told us, they were like, I really like this theme of water that you have. Here's an issue that's in my community is that our lakes aren't very clean. And we sort of ran with the idea that now our chapters run, they solve the issues that are local and relevant to their community so that more community members become interested in realizing that that local issue has direction here, here, here in climate issues. And then it just like sort of connects in a really beautiful way so that people can relate on their community level to more of a global level of why this issue is happening and how we can prevent it. And even if it's at a smaller scale, it still makes a tangible difference in their community, which hopefully spreads to different communities.
And I think you can't I don't know, under credit the power of people participating in something and stepping away from that and saying, that felt really good. And I want to tell someone else about it. I want to share this with somebody. I can't believe what came away from, doing this big cleanup. Like, wow, we really have to figure out something so we're sustaining this, the cleanliness of the water, the quality of the water. And so what can we do there? And just kind of like building off of that. I feel like the momentum that comes with youth in action is so powerful. So that's really
Yeah,
exciting that
absolutely.
that's been something that's like been thread into it. How do people? So I think that sounds amazing. How did you get connected with this group in Siberia that wanted to do something? How does this bigger network kind of build out?
Yeah, so at first it was definitely hard because we were growing our social media account, and social media is kind of the main way we reached out to these different youth across the world that wanted to get involved and be part of Mission Green Global. But it started off with an internship I did a couple of years ago where I worked with this international team of students, and so I reached out to some of them and I was like, hey, like this is my idea. I run this nonprofit on a smaller scale, would you be interested in maybe starting a chapter and testing how it goes? And they were very interested. And so that's how it started. They actually gave me the confidence to keep doing this and keep growing and reach out to more people because something that I've learned and something that's super valuable to me is that youth always want to be involved. And that's something that I started off with as well. I really wanted to be involved in climate action. I just had this idea in me that I had to wait, I had to be older, I had to be, either driving, have my own car to go to these volunteering hubs. But having this idea and starting something where I could contribute to the environment in my own way in my set hours, or maybe I had to work remotely according to some things that for a youth, like being part of school, having school clubs, having homework to do is gave me that kind of perspective on, hey, youth want to get involved. There's just not a bridge between the opportunities available and how they can do it. And kind of building that bridge and getting these youth to help me build that bridge, that's been the most valuable lesson of all because I've kind of learned how to exactly not just get youth involved or get youth interested in climate action, but give them tangible ways to protect their planet as well.
Oh, that's fantastic. You know, it reminds me of one of our 30 under 30, Tommy Teicher, who he was one of our keynotes last year at the conference, and he was talking about how that was the same thing. He was a young person who was saying, "I want to get involved. I want to do something. How can I help?" And they all said, "You gotta wait until you're 14 or 16 or 18 or whatever age it was." That really just it I feel like young people get enough no's. They have enough reasons that they're not allowed to do things or they have to wait for stuff. And so it's always so inspiring when people say, okay, fine, then we're going to do it ourselves and we're going to make it happen. And yeah,
Absolutely.
oh, I think that's fantastic. So on that note, let's say, somebody's watching these YouTube recordings and they find this and they say, whoa, that sounds like something I would love to do. When you look back and you say, okay, I had this idea few years ago. I wanted to get something going. I've had some really great things. I've had some things that like didn't quite work the way I was hoping for. What would your takeaways be that could kind of inform maybe a young person somewhere else who's hoping to build some kind of connection beyond just their own community?
Yeah, absolutely. I feel like there's definitely being your own founder is definitely very difficult at times because there are questions that people come to you with that you also do not have the answer to. And I think part of that is not just like making mistakes, but being very open and genuine and human to the people that you're working with is also very important. When these chapters came to me or my board members came to me and they were like, hey, like, we don't know how to do this. I had to be completely honest with them. Hey, I don't know how to do this either, but we'll figure it out together. And I think that honesty is what really shaped my perspective on growing my organization because when people kind of look at you and they realize that, hey, even you don't have all the answers, I feel like they're just less scared or you appear more approachable in that way. And that kind of really builds like the community that we have at Mission Green Global and something that's very important to me because I always wanted this to be something that wasn't just my thing or wasn't just my nonprofit, but something that was shared between everyone who came to work or volunteer or become a chapter through Mission Green Global. And that's, I think, most shaped by honesty and vulnerability and being super genuine about where you are and where you want to go.
Oh, fantastic. Well, okay, so I know you're a college student. You're literally in your dorm room right now. So I know that, there's probably a lot of moving parts in your life. When you're looking ahead at Mission Green Global and what that looks like, or just what your future looks like, where does this all fit in? Because I hear so much passion, and I can't imagine that your life will be, going and just working in a cubicle doing something that's just right in front of you. It sounds like there's a lot more going on than that.
Yeah, that's actually an amazing question. That takes a lot of deep thought. I would
Yeah.
say for sure. I think climate has always been a really big part of my life, and now I've gotten my friends roped into the climate sphere too. I actually founded Mission Green Global with my best friends, so now they're into it too. And it's true. I couldn't imagine my life without Mission Green Global. I couldn't imagine my life without being a climate advocate, and I feel like, whatever I end up doing, whatever job I end up working, Mission Green Global will always be something that I look forward to, that I keep doing. Climate advocacy is something that I keep doing, and something that I am really passionate about and want to go into to merge my climate advocacy with some of the other things I'm passionate about is sustainable aerospace. I'm actually an aerospace major at Georgia Tech, and I've always been fascinated by space. And I think it's really cool that my two passions, they're so related, space and earth.
Yes.
And yeah, it just came that way. But I think something that kind of really shaped my view of that is, what they call the Earth effect or the overview effect when astronauts go into space and they realize that like, wow, like Earth is so amazing. Like this is our planet. We should believe in it. That's something that happened to me without going to space. Like I always thought that, whether or not like I go into space or whether I am working on satellites, rockets, Earth is something that I'm very passionate about. And that's what I hope to do in my career is not just find ways that we can explore what's beyond our planet, but find ways to protect it. Kind of that connection between those two things is something that I'm very passionate about and I hope to do in my career.
I love that I said that I couldn't picture you being in a little cubicle working on something in front of you, and you would literally be doing the complete opposite, which is like looking into the limitless space beyond. That's amazing. Oh, that's fantastic. Well, okay, so you're here at the conference. You have this presentation you put together. Tell me a little bit about that. How does that connect to all this, and what can people kind of keep in mind as they check out your session?
Yeah. So something that I've learned through Mission Global is the core of this conference, and that's climate advocacy through the six pillars framework that we really believe in at Mission Global. And those six pillars are education, community, culture, accessibility, collaboration, and engagement. And I'll go a little bit into each, but you'll have to wait
Please
until the
do.
session for the rest of it.
Oh, oh, nice teaser.
But the main thing is these six pillars I feel like make up every single initiative that we do at Mission Global and makes every initiative inclusive and kind of brings people together in a way because I feel like sometimes climate action just to go about it in that way isn't sometimes the best way to bring people in because they don't really realize the connection between them and the planet or them and the climate. So bringing culture in, bringing education in, which is all about this conference, is gives people a really kind of connected feel to what the issue it is that they're working on. And one of the pillars is community. So, like I said before, we really try to ground all the initiatives that we do in the community because people can see live results and kind of experience that, hey, like this is a problem that's happening in my community. And I don't know where else problem is happening, but maybe if I pitch in, maybe if I help solve it in my community, whether it's lake cleanup, whether it's replantation of a forest that might have burnt down, then it gives them that like, oh, there are so many other regions that are fighting with this because of the condition of our climate. And I feel like that connection is what really fosters the collaboration between the community. And I think that's the best place that youth can be because they're really good at bringing people together. I remember something that my parents also told me was that they didn't start recycling until I went home and I told them, hey, like we should start recycling. Like this is a big deal. And when they learned about it, when they got taught the lesson by me, they realized the importance of it. And I think youth are so perfect for that because they go to school, they learn these things, and they're the perfect kind of scope to bring this education to different places and different people. So, kind of that entirety is what I'll be talking about. And I'm kind of going to be referencing case studies from my own organization that helped, case studies from other organizations that kind of not use the same framework. I don't know if they did, but some similarities that I see and why they might have worked. And yeah, that's what I hope to accomplish in the session.
That sounds amazing. And I feel like I've got a nice idea of what that includes and that it'd be a lot of note taking of just like here are things that we are seeing work, here are stories of, examples that you might pursue. And it sounds like when you were first starting Mission Green Global, did you have something that you were kind of basing the idea off of as far as like just the structure or how you were gonna, what you were gonna do on social media to start finding connections? Or was that something that you just said, I have this idea, let's start trying stuff and just kind of went from there? How did you kick it off in the beginning?
Mission Global was kicked off as a school club. I applied for the club at my school and I got in and I was so excited and I was like, great, now we have a club at the school. But I slowly started realizing that the scope of the club wasn't enough for where I wanted to take Mission Global. And while I didn't have an ideal organization beforehand, I feel like coming along and, like you said, it was a mix of both. Like I tried some things, they didn't work, and then I had a general idea of where I wanted to take Mission Global. Something that I kind of really believed in and brought me up till here was that I wanted always Mission Green Global not to be just an organization, but a movement. And hence that's the name, Mission Green Global. It's not tied to any like, I feel like what you would feel like a nonprofit name would be. It's quite literally like mission green global, like make this a mission.
Yeah.
It's kind of like a pledge to the climate, and that's what I wanted to be. And when I realized that there were things that, like I wanted to bring it to more communities, I wanted to go global with the idea, I wanted people to think about mission green global but not think about the organization, think about the idea of being involved in the planet and giving back. That's when I realized that, there's certain aspects that I wanted to work on, whether it was the more nonprofit side of it growing or whether it was the ideation of it. And that's when I started looking at other nonprofits, other businesses, other sustainable practices that have done it before me and succeeded. And they really guided me through it. I talked to very valuable mentors who gave me awesome advice on, where to go, where to head. But it's a lot about also finding your own balance, because what worked for some other organization or some other climate advocate is not always something that's going to work for you in the position that you're at. And also, I feel like the ideas that you're passionate about, because what I've seen at this conference so far is I've attended so many amazing sessions. And throughout it, I find it very valuable that even though we're all fighting for the same issue, we have so many different perspectives on it and so many different ideas to solve it. And I think that's the beauty of working together, is that you hear so many diverse opinions. There's not just one set kind of goal or outreach. And that's why we have so many amazing nonprofits and so many amazing advocates working, because this job can't really be done by only one person.
And I love that. I think that's one of the best parts about just the environmental education, climate education field is just it has to keep changing. It has to keep growing. We
Absolutely.
have to keep thinking about today, what are we doing for tomorrow versus like this is what we've always done, or this is the book we wrote 14 years ago or whatever. It's like we're in something, we're in a new space and you got to be ready to move.
Yeah.
You were kind of talking about the sort of your growth through Mission Green Global, and one of the things that I don't know if you formally do any kind of like mentoring, but hearing you talk to other folks as you're sort of building out this organization, that concept of mentoring can be so powerful, and it can just be between people who are like spending time together, working on things together as friends or colleagues or whatever. But there's so much more when you are operating this organization that has such a big reach. And I know you mentioned that you all are starting a podcast, or you've just started a podcast.
Yeah.
And I assume that that's like a pretty straightforward way of saying, we might not know each other yet, but there is this thing that is already out there. You can get to know me through it and then, see what comes from that. But tell me, and obviously this is very podcasty, and our hosts this past year for this session have all been people that have like hosted their own podcasts or done podcasting in the past or whatever. So I'm going to write your name down on a future list of hosts to interview other folks. But tell me
It's
about your
amazing.
podcast.
Yeah, of course. So podcasting, the idea really came because the way that we work at Mission Global is really try to get youth involved in different projects that mean something to them. It's not that we want them forced into this climate specter and like, you should care, right? It's more of like, hey, like, if you're good at art, bring that to Mission Green Global, because we'd love to feature your art about ocean advocacy on our page. And that's the idea of podcasting. There's so many people out there, there's so many students who love podcasting, who love media. And we were like, why don't we take this hobby that they have? Because I feel like something that really spoke to me about climate integration is it's what you take and then spin it into back into the climate realm to give something that like makes a difference. So that's
Mhm.
what I had with this podcasting idea. And we have two wonderful hosts. One is in India, one is in Greece. How they manage their time differences, I don't know.
Sure, yeah.
But they work really well together, and they've been managing our podcast called No Planet B. Um, and they really bring like youth interested in hosting their own episodes, talking about something that's personal to them, whether that's a climate story, whether that's interviewing professionals, to get more of a scope on how they kind of deal with the climate crisis, or how they can get involved in the climate crisis. And that's something that really kicked off the idea. And we're just 2 episodes in. We're really, really new to the podcasting, still figuring things out. But it's great to have your support. So thank you so
Yeah.
much.
Oh, absolutely. That's really exciting. And yeah, I mean, all whatever the different media that you can get into, I mean, there's just there are folks who are into all sorts of things, and being able to find them where they are through different means that make sense for you is a great way to do it. And speaking of podcasting, so this series, this podcast stage series, isn't officially part of the NAAEE podcast, but as somebody who works on that, we typically end our episodes by asking our guests, well, the show is called The World We Want. And so we typically ask our guests, thinking through all that you've shared, thinking through what you do with your free time, with your work time, with the passion you have, with the skills you're gaining. When you think about it, what's the world you want? So I'd
That's a
love to hear your thoughts.
very loaded question. But it's a very powerful one, and I think it's something that people should think about more often. It's something I think now I should think about more often. And in my ideal world, or a world that I want, I would really want people to reflect more on the little actions they have. I feel like sometimes we don't think about it enough, about the little changes in our lifestyle, how they can mean so much. Because a quote that really sticks with me is, "What difference does one plastic bottle make?" said 7 billion people. And I think that enormity of kind of the little things that we might not even think about that we do on a daily basis. And I'm not even just talking climate, I'm talking about words that we say to someone else, or little things that we do here and there. They can make such a big difference in someone else's life and the planet. In an ideal world, I would want people to really be, cautious, not like live like in their comfort zone or not do things, but think about what actions that they do or what changes they can make to their lifestyle to make this a better place. Because it doesn't take a lot. Sometimes I feel like, like it takes a lot now because there's so much to do, I feel like, but there's little changes that can make such a huge improvement in the way that we interact with one another, or the way we interact with the planet. So that would definitely be one of the things that I would love to see. I think also, like, kind of the way that we're headed, getting that inclusivity in spaces is also very important. I think getting youth involved, as I've been saying, is a way to do that. And kind of giving opportunities to one another is something that I've seen a lot. And getting people to think about interdependency, whether that's connecting one issue to the other, whether that's getting them seen and recognized, like through like the podcasting or the art that we do. It's just sharing and seeing how you can use the best of what you do to give back. Um, I think all those ideas put together, it's so hard to name it conceptually when it's such an abstract topic, but I think all those things put together is what I would want to see in a better world.
Well, it sounds like a lot of the work that you're doing through Mission Green Global is taking those steps to get people involved, even just like in little things or in just trying something, learning something, meeting someone, all those little things. And like you said, when you've got billions and billions of people, every single person doing one little thing differently for the
Mhm.
planet could make a humongous change. So that's
Exactly.
fantastic. Well, okay, so I know that you have No Planet B, the podcast. You've talked about Mission Green Global being on social media. Is there anything else that you want to make sure people know how to find you, where to find you? And we'll include this in the episode description, but anything else you want to shout out for that while folks are listening?
Yeah, absolutely. Go to missiongreenglobal.com. Please check us out. There's tons of volunteering pages. Even though it's mostly catered to youth, if you're an adult watching, there's still ways that you can get involved. We would love your support. We would love your expertise. We would love your guidance, because at the end of the day, even though we want youth to be the central focus of our organization, we can't do this without, the expert advice that you would give us. And at the same time, if you know any youth or you are a youth watching it, we would love to have you join us, interact with us, volunteer with us. Happy to work with you. And I just want to see so many more youth engaged in climate action. So, yeah.
Awesome. Great. Let's do it. Let's do it. Arushi, this was such a nice conversation. Thank you for taking the time out of what I assume is a very busy life, to talk to me about this. And yeah, I think you have set the stage very, very nicely for your conference presentation and also for people learning more about you. So thanks so much for being on this. We have more conversations coming up tomorrow. I think we have three more before we close out for this series, but I'm so glad to have had you as a guest. Thank you so much for being part of it.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me, Carrie.
All right. Thanks. And we'll see everybody at the next round. Thanks again.